welcome to Brands Hatch. Today is Wednesday, so this is the Caterham Academy test day. I'm actually recording this towards the end of the day. I've been really slack on recording. It's been a pretty frantic day as ever with track time, but I'll do a proper, in fact you've probably already heard it, or you will hear it, who knows what order I'll edit things in. But yeah, enjoyed the progress I've made today. Pace feels pretty decent in the car. Something nice to build on. I've now got a day off on Thursday, and then another full day of testing on Friday, and of course the race on Saturday. So yeah, hopefully keep building, and so far so good. So this is it, race weekend voiceover. Just first to start off, I was so kind of frantic with trying to be organised for the race week. You know, filming videos kind of didn't really get thought about. It wasn't really prioritised. You know, this was always supposed to be just a low budget way of documenting the Caterham Academy and the build and all that sort of stuff, which meant I wasn't really thinking about getting footage and stuff to talk through. But you know, I will put more effort in as the year progresses, I think, and I get more in my stride on the race weekends. So this video will be largely voiceover of the V-Box clips, and yeah, we'll just see how that goes. So this was Wednesday. I had coaching all day on Wednesday, so thanks Bobby for that. It was really useful, and I was effectively learning Brands Hatch. Really, feels like I've been to Brands Hatch dozens of times because I've absolutely been hammering it on Assetto Corsa. And it's, you know, this track layout on a sim is about the right balance for my attention span, you know, 57, 58 second lap or whatever, and you know, I can cope with that. It's the longer laps like Silverstone or whatever, I just get bored after like 10 minutes on the simulator, but this one I'm happy to pound around on. So, and I came here, you know, I had a few hours here, you know, to run the car back in December as well, so even though it's kind of a new track to me, I felt like I knew it really well, and I kind of got into it quite early on. My objective for the Wednesday was to get into the 56s, which I achieved. I think somewhere in this clip you're watching right now is a 56.6, which is a time, which is a lap time that will be a recurring theme throughout the weekend. What I didn't realise at the time of doing these laps is this would be the best circuit conditions we would have all week. We had a really favourable tailwind into turn one. That pulled a 180 for the rest of the week in various strengths. So, you know, the whole paddock really struggled to beat the pace that they were setting on the Wednesday, which probably got everybody overdriving a little bit as the week progressed. That's just all part of our learning experience, I suppose, with driving at a track several days in a row. So the main areas of weakness for me during the test day, what I was trying to address was really having the bravery to use the track properly, particularly at turn one. I wasn't using the whole track at entry. Really difficult thing to reprogram my brain on, which was frustrating. But also around my throttle inputs, trying to make sure that I was timing my throttle application right, so I wasn't doing what I'm doing right now at this particular moment in time, which was getting on the power too early, which was then causing the car to understeer and limiting my ability to get on the gas fully. What needs to be doing in these cars is, you know, once I commit to the gas, is making sure I'm committing properly. They don't really have the power to overcome that loss of momentum by not getting on the gas fully. But other than that, I was pretty happy with it. The car started having some what I thought were gremlins. I wasn't sure if it was a gremlin or if it was the headwind into Surtees, but it started stumbling a little bit around the sort of 5.5k revs. You know, I know people are getting bored of me talking about gremlins now, but it wasn't ideal. And then we had a bit of weather as well. We had one session where it rained very heavily suddenly, so I was desperate to get out on track and get confidence up in those conditions, you know, which went well. So at this time in the weekend, we still had chance of it being wet for the race. So getting any laps we could in the wet conditions were pretty important. Right, welcome to base camp. Gazebo's up. Stuff all safely stored in the trailer for tonight. Get that locked up in a minute. Yeah, this is race paddock's nowhere near as busy as I thought it would be at this time. Ah. Okay. Yeah. I'm vlogging. Probably formally introduce Jamie to the video series. Jamie's kindly offered to travel the country with me this year, and he'll be at most of the races as my my emotional support animal, I think he introduces himself as. So Jamie and I spent a bit of time on Thursday, just getting some work done, catching up on other things, and doing a track walk, which was pretty cool. The next clip I'm going to show is this corner here, Druids, the following day on the Friday morning testing. Listen out for the throttle coming out of Druids. So yeah, not sure if you could pick that out, but it was very slightly hesitating on the slow corners now, which was adding to some of the other woes I'd had on Wednesday. So this was the Caterham back in with Darren, Dave and the team in the Caterham tent, Jamie pointing at my engine, to figure out what the problem was. Honestly, still inconclusive at time of making this. Wiggling connectors around seems to make it better, but there's definitely a wiring issue somewhere in the car. I had Charlie Lower with me in the paddock on Friday. Bit of a celebrity around these Caterham parts, so big thanks to Charlie for helping me out after a chance meeting a few weeks ago. It was Charlie actually that picked up the kind of misfiring sound on the V-box and convinced Darren and the team, or showed Darren and the team the footage to convince of the problem. Trying to flush any kind of niggles out of my mind, just carried on with the testing on Friday. One of the highlights of the Friday test was the final session where Charlie advised, look, there's nothing you're going to gain now from a 10th here or a 10th there on ultimate lap time. Try and spend some time getting more comfortable driving them onto the other traffic. And that's what I did for the final session. Really enjoyed it. I think I said at the time it was some of the most fun I'd ever had in a car. Yeah, it just helps to, even though when I now look back at the race footage, which you guys will all see soon, I'm still a little bit too tentative, I think, while following other cars, but we'll get there. As I said earlier, the wind had totally changed on this day, so it was really difficult to match or beat our previous lap times. Despite my technique being a lot better, the times were only just matching what I was doing on Wednesday. We only got 4 test sessions on Friday, and we're sharing it now with the trucks and the other race series that were going on, and the paddock just getting fuller and fuller and busier as the day progressed. But yeah, once the testing was done, I was now joined with my wife had come down at the end of Friday, and some of the friends, Simon and Sonia, came to support as well. Really do appreciate everybody coming over. It's a long way for everybody to travel, way down to Brands Hatch. So we had a night trying to chill out, nice meal with some of the other academy people. And a somewhat early night, which didn't lead to a whole lot of sleep, I've got to be honest. Following morning, the paddock, very, very nervous now. We had a few hours to kill until qualifying, so it was just spent looking at the car, checking everything, tyres, wheels, oil, just checking everything, trying to stay busy until the time finally clicked down to qualifying. So here we go. This was my fastest lap in qualifying. Again, I've been talked about this a few times already, but the conditions were just off of Wednesday. Part of that was quite a big headwind, quite a strong headwind into turn 1, which had 2 impacts. Right, one was we were slower on the straight, But the other was I was also too soon on the brakes. Didn't have to brake as hard, didn't have to brake as early, which meant corner speed through turn one was down where we'd been through parts of testing. The rest of the lap was just fairly non-spectacular, to be honest. It just felt, the V-Box was showing that I was up on the rest of the laps I'd done in quali, so obviously I knew this was my best lap in quali so far. And right about now, I pick up a pretty good tow from Mark for the straight to the finish, for the blast to the finish, which, in hindsight, this really did kind of rescued the lap somewhat. The time I gained between now and the finish line was critical. I'll be honest, after the checkered flag came down, I saw the time that I'd done on the V-Box and I was gutted. I thought I was nowhere. It was a 57 dead, and I'd been doing mid 56s for most of the week. What I didn't anticipate though was everybody had the same problems I'd had, and as a result, I came in P2. In fact, I was running in pole position for a large amount of the session. So huge surprise. Yeah, couldn't believe it. I just could not believe P2 on the grid. So big congratulations to Max for pipping me to the pole position. This is me following Max out now for our first ever race start. Just behind me was Seb, who was putting a great lap to bring it into P3. And this was probably the most surreal 30 seconds of the entire weekend, driving out to a grid with the marshals everywhere for an unimpeded view of the lights for the race start, which would happen in just a few minutes' time.